Today, I'm excited to bring you a very special guest and also to just a general exciting show in general today because we have a blogging expert by the name of Leslie Samuel here, who's also a Wirecast user. And we're going to really dive in with not only how he uses Wirecast to build and support his business, but to run a podcast and to help people build their own blogs. In addition to that, I've got some updates for you on Wirecast 7.2, the update we just released for Wirecast 7. And we will go over some of the new features and things that we have included in there, as well as maybe a couple other tips for you guys. So should be a fun show today. Stay tuned. If you have questions or comments like Alfredo in the comment section here, please just chat them right in. We'll be keeping an eye on those throughout the show. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest, Leslie Samuels. Leslie, are you there?
I am here. Thanks for having me on.
I'm so glad you could join us. I'm really excited to dive into a little bit because clearly, I mean, building a blog is something I know nothing about, and I really would like to find out a little bit more. And then not only that, how you tie in live streaming into what you do with the blog side of things.
Definitely. I'm excited to I'm always excited to talk about blogging, live streaming, any of that stuff. So bring it on.
So you're joining us remotely, but live on Eastern Time. You're in, let's see if I get this right, Berrien Springs, Michigan.
You got it right.
I did. All right. So, I'm glad we have you. You're joining us through our new tech talk show, VS100 box, which hopefully will stay high quality this whole broadcast. It's generally done very well for us, and as long as the internet decides to keep working, we should be fine.
Very cool.
So, Leslie, tell us a little bit about how you got started. What's your background? I mean, were you born and raised in Berrien? And where did you come to the live streaming and blogging side of things and into this business?
All right. So definitely not born and raised in Berrien Springs. You could probably hear a little bit of an accent. I'm originally from the Caribbean, the beautiful island of St. Martin. Came to Berrien Springs to go to college. I did my bachelor's. I did a master's. And while I was doing my master's, I was doing a master's in neurobiology. And I was sent to Germany to do a bunch of research on crickets and all kinds of stuff. And my goal was ultimately to become a university professor and teach at a university. I wanted to teach biology and neuroscience and those types of things. But something interesting happened. I realized that I hated the kind of research that I'd have to do in order to get a PhD in neuroscience and then start and teach at a university. So I said, forget that. Started teaching at a high school. And it was a boarding academy. The students actually lived there. And while I was teaching there, I was looking online for, things to do to supplement my income. And I stumbled onto something at the time was called freebie trading. And I don't know if you've seen these websites, but they used to be a big thing back in the days. You sign up, you complete an offer, you refer others, they complete offers, and you get like a free iPod.
Interesting.
So
okay.
I found out a way to use those sites to actually make some money. So I started to do that, and I was doing it primarily by working in forums. There were some forums where people were looking to complete offers, and I kind of connected those people with the offers, and I made money, they made money. It was a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. But the problem was I realized that in order to continue making money with that, I had to just continue being, I was always in the forums, answering questions and so on. And it was taking a lot more time than I actually had. Mm-hmm. That's when I learned about blogging. And I learned about blogging as a way of building a platform so that you don't always have to be going out to find people, but people would eventually start finding you as your site grows in authority and all that good stuff. So I started a blog to teach people about freebie trading, the stuff that I was doing. And then from there, it kind of evolved. I started being more passionate about blogging, so I started talking more about blogging. Then I decided, hey, I wanted to be a university professor and teach biology. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start a biology blog and teach what I would be teaching if I were a university professor, whether I have a PhD or not. I'm going to do it. So I started doing that, and that blog actually grew way faster than anything else that I was doing. And as a result of that blog, I'm making a long story short, even though it sounds long. As a result of that blog, I got a job as a university professor, and then I did that for 3 years, and then I left my job, my dream job, to just do this blogging and online stuff full time because of how much I enjoy it, because of the flexibility that it gives me. I can be at home with my family much more. I can travel, and once I have my laptop and the internet, I'm good to go. So that's kind of like the abridged version of my story in terms of how I got into what I'm doing today.
Ah, that's fascinating. So, starting out as a neurobiology major and scientist, and
Yep.
eventually professor, and ending your way up into becoming a blogging expert and a blogging instructor. You just never know where you're going to end up these days, do you?
You never know.
So it just sounds like you were very flexible and adaptable. And one of the things that I liked about your story was that you were very cognizant of what you wanted. And even though you maybe really liked your job as a university professor, and it's fascinating that that actually, the very job that you wanted to get was enabled by blogging, right? And then you left that job to go then teach more blogging. So, can you explain a little bit about what that transition was like from, say, becoming, going from being a blogger to being a professor and then a full-time blogging instructor? What is it that you did that, I mean, because I saw some of your videos, and we can watch those in a bit, but you started a series of videos a couple of years back about your journey to complete self-employment. So I assume that was when you really started cataloging that step or that transition.
Yeah, it's been interesting, right? Because becoming a professor was actually very, very difficult for me. It was fun. I actually loved it. But, I was teaching in a doctoral program. I was teaching classes, well, quite frankly, some classes that I never even took.
Hmm.
So it was really intense. I am studying, I mean, I'm teaching during the day. I come home and I'm studying to teach the next day. In addition to that, I'm building my business on the side. So I was literally almost constantly going. And with that, there was one thing that I didn't have much of or hardly any of, and that was free time. And that is actually part of what made me make the decision to leave what I was doing because my wife and I had our child, our son. And when he was born, I was there when he was born and it was great. But then I had to get back to work like soon after because, I just had so much to do. And
Hmm.
I started realizing that, man, I am working so much, so many long hours, all throughout the day, all throughout the night sometimes. And I don't have time for my family. And for me, that's important. So my wife and I decided, you know what, we're going to take that leap. My business was doing okay at the time. In the past, when I had a little more time, it was doing better. So I knew what it would take in order to have a successful business, but I just didn't have the time to actually do it.
Hmm.
So when we decided to leave my job and I left my job, I mean, it was a rough transition because, like I said, my business wasn't making as much as I would have liked it to be making at that time, leaving your job with a new son.
Hmm.
But it was rough for a few months there. I mean, it was extremely challenging because I wasn't making enough for my family to do everything that we needed to do.
Hmm.
Um, but after doing it for, I think, about 5, 6 months after leaving my job, I was able to match the salary that I was making on my job. Kind of went up from there. So I don't want to be on here and have anyone thinking that, man, he's blogging and everything is going well. It's always been going well. It was this easy no, it was extremely difficult.
Mm.
Building a business is a challenging thing, and taking that leap where you're going from security, a secure job where you're not getting fired or most likely not getting fired, you have all the benefits and everything is taken care of, to now everything is dependent on what I do down in this basement on my laptop. I mean, it was a rough transition, but it's one that I absolutely don't regret.
Well, I mean, that sounds amazing because I think there's a lot of people around the world that would really want to emulate the same thing
Mhm.
because they probably don't feel like they have enough time or they don't feel like that they have enough freedom to kind of do what they want to do or spend more time with their family. And so it's really exciting to see people take that step. What is it that you think is the number one thing or the number one key to succeeding and being able to use the modern economy and the modern technology that we have to free up more time and still make a comparable income. I mean, I had to laugh when you said you left a cush university position to start a business because you wanted to work less.
Yeah, I know. Right? Oh man, and
It's very counterintuitive.
yeah, that's what I had in my mind, right? I thought, hey, I'm gonna have much more flexibility, and I do now. But at the time, oh man, it was way more intense, and in some ways, it's still more difficult today than it was when I was teaching. Now, you asked me what's the one key to success.
Hmm.
I think, man, one key. It's so hard to narrow it down to one, but
Okay,
I'll give you maybe two or three.
that's fine. You're the
Number
expert.
one, number one, and this is something that gets lost with all the hype because you have all these sales pages telling you what you can do in 30 days from scratch with no email list and no experience, yada, yada, yada. But the fact is, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of hard work. Don't if anyone tells you otherwise, run away. Do not buy their product. Don't invest in anything they tell you to invest in because the reality is building a business takes a lot of hard work. That is one thing. The second thing that has been very instrumental to my success is surrounding yourself with the right kind of people.
Mm.
Because if I'm a part of a few mastermind groups right now, and if I had not been a part of the mastermind groups with people that were on similar journeys, that were doing similar things, and many of them were a little even more advanced than I am, or even significantly more advanced than I am, and having that support system of people that are doing similar things as opposed to, like we said, I live in Berrien Springs, Michigan. It's a little tiny town in the middle of nowhere. Nobody is doing this stuff. So there's no support coming in that direction, but you can connect with people online that are doing great things. And if you can be a part of a mastermind group and have that support, those kinds of things have been huge for me. And I really would not be doing what I'm doing today without that.
Interesting. What is a mastermind group, just for those people who haven't heard of that before?
Yeah, so a mastermind group, at least the way we do it, is a group of individuals that are on the same page. They are in alignment with what they're trying to do. And what we do is we meet once a week. And whenever we meet, there's one person that's going to be in the hot seat. And how it works is at the beginning of our meeting, we all just share what are our wins of the week. So just to start it off on a positive note. And then after that, maybe 10 minutes, the next 50 minutes is devoted to that one person that's in the hot seat. And that person gets to share what they're working on, or maybe what they're struggling with, what they're trying to figure out, or what they need some input on. And everyone else in the group just takes that time to kind of invest in that person, answer questions, give ideas, do some brainstorming, challenge that person. The people that challenge me the most right now are the people in my mastermind group, because I put something out online and ask people what they think about it, and a lot of people will just say, "Oh yeah, this is so great, yada yada yada," and I take it to my mastermind group and I say, "Hey, what do you guys think about it?" And they will literally rip it apart sometimes, and give me that constructive feedback, and push me to do more than I thought I could do, or to look at things from a different perspective. I mean, that's just been so huge for me.
That sounds really big. How do you connect with somebody like that? Do you use like sites like Meetup, or where is it that did you just construct it on your own and kind of self-assemble?
Yeah, it's interesting how my mastermind groups form. When I look at what I do online, I look at it as connecting with people. And I look at connecting with people online the same way I look at connecting with people offline. And actually, the mastermind groups that I'm a part of, yes, I knew some of those individuals online, but we actually met at conferences after knowing each other online, and we connected, we hung out, and we became friends, and we started, you nurture relationships. And then at one point, one of the guys in that was starting the mastermind group reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of the mastermind group. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be a part. All of my mastermind groups that I've been a part of, and I've been a part of a few of them, have come from some kind of a personal relationship that has developed, usually starting online, but then meeting in person. I love going to events. I love connecting with people and just hanging out. When I go to an event, it's not about, hey, here's my business card, check out my website.
Right.
It's about, hey, what's going on with you? Tell me a little bit about your family. What are you struggling with? And we just having regular conversation like you're dealing with real people.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds
That's
so
how it's
important.
happened for me personally.
That's very cool. Do you find that the mastermind groups that you're a part of, are they very much in similar types of businesses as you? Are they solopreneurs? Are they bloggers? Or some in like larger organizations?
So most of them are either are entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
Most of them are solopreneurs. Some of them work in small teams. Some of them work in bigger teams. Like one is a part of a big company that he started, but there's a team of 50 something people that works with him.
Hmm.
So it varies. Many of them, when I say many of them, it's not that many, but
Hmm.
some of them are in similar industries. Some of them are podcasters, and most of them are podcasters actually, and all of them have blogs, and all of them are doing things online.
That's very cool. So I think that's really good advice for anyone. What was the third piece or the third critical tool to your success that you would recommend other people
All right.
follow?
So number one, you want to definitely. Wait, what was number one? Number one was work
Work
hard.
hard,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Number two
Oh, yeah,
was
that.
surround yourself with the right people. And number three, you want to have a system that you are following, and you want to. You want to follow that as much as you can in order to accomplish your goal. Now, for me, I'm all about blogging and using blogs as to build a platform, and then of course I use social media and all that good stuff. But when I started, I went through some training to learn about how to blog because I didn't know how to blog. And if I just kind of went on Google and tried to find out how to blog and look at all the hundreds of thousands, if not significantly more websites, it would be extremely overwhelming. So I like to tell people to find a program or some training that's teaching them, and not just any training from someone that has done what you are trying to accomplish.
Hmm.
And just kind of using that as a way to avoid having to look in a million different places.
Hmm.
And once you find that system, I think the problem that people have is they find a system, they do a few of the things for a few weeks or a few months, and they say it's not working. Well, it's not working most likely because you're not working it.
Hmm.
The truth is, there are a number of ways to build a business. You have to find one that works, and then you have to actually work it. So finding that system and just going through it and just being consistent in creating what you are trying to create. That's the third key.
That makes sense. I actually want to pull up your website here so we can kind of
Sure.
see what you're talking about. You're the creator of howtoblog.com. I'm sorry,
Becomeablogger.com.
becomeablogger.com.
Yep.
And this is kind of, I think, where many people would find out more information about, what you do, but it's kind of interesting because this serves two purposes. It's also, what we're talking about is not only this website as a product of all the work that you've done and all the things that you've learned, but also as a gateway for your own customers, clients, and your own business. So what is it that, as you're creating this, what is it that you're offering people when they come in, and I noticed that you have a section here for a podcast. You have sections here for, say, like starting a blog and get coaching. Is this sort of deliberately created to offer all the different areas that you want to help people with?
Okay, so looking at what you're seeing there, right on the screen,
Hmm.
this is the way I approach it. First, you want to really understand who you're trying to reach. I'm trying to reach people that want to build a business online using a blog. And I have a very detailed write-up of what that person looks like, what they're struggling with, what are their goals, and so on and so forth. And once I have that understanding, I need to ask myself, what kind of content do I need to create in order to attract that person?
Hmm.
So now, if I'm teaching people how to start a blog, you look at those, you see the Learning with Leslie podcast there, and a number of different interviews that I've done. So there's one there on social media algorithms. There's one answering the question if is blogging dead, and then how to sell high priced products from your blog, and how to maximize your success by attending conferences, etc., etc., etc. I am creating content consistently to cater to the person that I am trying to attract. And then once they come, I am encouraging them to get on my email list. Now, how are they getting on my email list? If you scroll up, what you're going to see is that I'm inviting them to find out more about my coaching. And basically, they get 30 days of coaching from me for free. And by doing that, they're actually signing on to my email list. Now, once they've done that, I can follow up with them. I can send them valuable content. I can engage them, and I can do all kinds of stuff with them to help them get started with their blog. And if they're interested in taking it further, they can continue on for the paid membership. So it's done in a very strategic way so that you are attracting the right kinds of people. You are getting them on your email list. And once they're on your email list, you're engaging them. You're providing them with more value. And then, of course, you're building a business because you are also offering them things that they can purchase to help them to accomplish their goals even faster. So that's kind of the way I've set it up. So when you go through my blog, you're going to find things that are relevant to that person that I'm trying to target. And that's the same way you want to look at it if you're building a blog, regardless of what your blog topic is. If you have a blog about biology, which is my other blog, then I'm going to be creating content for the person that's struggling in their biology classes. And with that biology blog, I am targeting a specific type of biology student. I'm targeting students at the university level that are taking classes like anatomy and physiology and neurobiology and those types of things. So I'm creating content consistently, or at least when I was active with that blog, for that kind of person. They come, they sign on to my email list. It's the exact same process. They get nurtured, but then they're also offered a study guide that I've created that they can purchase. So that's generally speaking how I look at it. You create valuable content, you put it out there for free to attract the person that you are trying to target, you get them on your email list, and then you nurture that relationship by providing them with value, and along the way you provide them with opportunities to do business with you.
Got it. So if somebody is further along, they've gone through your free blogging course, I mean, what are the types of things that someone would pay for in terms of services, like personal one-on-one sessions? Are there additional course materials that you charge for, additional courses?
Yeah, so how it works is when they sign up for that free 30 days, it's a free trial for my membership program. And if they want to continue beyond that, they can pay a recurring fee in order to continue to get access to the resources that I'm creating in the members area. They get to get on coaching calls, with group coaching calls. They get access to my private Facebook group, and they get the webinars that I'm doing and a number of different courses to help them to build their blogging business. So that is one model in terms of one of the ways that I monetize my blog and my business. There are others, but that is one of the main ones.
Got it. Do you find, how much time during the week is this taking you? Like, if you think of it as a 40-hour a week job as sort of the standard U.S. American full-time employment, are you finding that you can do 10 to 15 hours a week, 20, 30 hours a week? I'm sure it varies.
Yes. Oh, it varies very much. And it varies in terms of the types of things that I'm doing, because not only am I blogging, but I'm also doing one-on-one coaching. I'm doing some consulting for companies on different things related to blogging and so on, and membership sites and so on. My business involves a number of different things. On average, right now, I probably spend about 30 to 40 hours a week on my business. Some weeks I spent significantly less. Like, for example, when my daughter was born earlier this year, I hardly did anything for a few months. But I had systems in place in order for my business to continue making money.
Right.
So it just varies. Some weeks it goes down to 10 hours. Some weeks it may go up to 50, 60 hours. But on average, I would probably say about 30 to 35.
Okay. So, let's talk a little bit about, you've said that, I love how you're putting this. It's very straightforward. It makes a lot of sense. So I think that hopefully, other people can follow in this. Can we start talking a little bit about the podcasting and the video and Wirecast side of things? I'm very interested in how you use software and live streaming software like Wirecast to help as part of your business and your website and what you offer.
All right, so there are two aspects to that, right? But it's one concept, right? And it's a concept that I already mentioned, right? You provide value for free and you get people to, once they get that content and they're finding value in that content, they want to know more. They want to do more. They want to sign up for more. It's the same concept. So my podcast, I record that. That's an audio podcast. That doesn't take I don't really use any software for that. I record it here in my little studio and I post that. It's on iTunes. I add it on my blog and I share it on social media and all that good stuff. But it's a way, once again, for me to deliver free value to my audience and to my potential audience. And it's a way for me to put content out there that people can share so that, that increases your potential audience significantly. So that's one aspect of it. Now, you mentioned live streaming and Wirecast. I think live streaming right now is such a big deal for a number of reasons. You have all of these companies trying to really invest in live streaming. You have Facebook with Facebook Live. You have YouTube that have their live video aspect as well. You have Periscope now and all of these different services. Over the last year or two, live streaming is something that is becoming more on the forefront of people's minds. And these huge companies are investing a significant amount of money to try to dominate in that part of the world, the live streaming world. On Facebook, just as an example, they give preferential treatment to your live videos. And it's easier for you to be found on Facebook if you're live streaming than if you are just posting to your page. All right, because of how the algorithm works and because of the fact that they are really trying to step up their live streaming game. So a program like Wirecast for me is amazing because it gives me the ability to jump on Facebook and do a live stream where I can, I'm on my webcam, but if I'm teaching something, I can share my screen, I can share a video clip, I can share all of these different things, and I can go directly to my Facebook audience using Wirecast. I mean, it's a great thing. I mean, just today I got access to Periscope Producer over the last few days, and I was experimenting with going live from my desktop to Periscope to Periscope. And people were on there asking me questions. They were excited about it because now it's not just me holding my smartphone, which is very easy, but now it's me talking to them with high quality video. I'm in my studio with good lighting and it looks nice because I'm using my HD webcam. But then if they ask me a question and I'm trying to show them something, I can present my screen and share that with them. I've done webinars on Facebook Live. I've done webinars on YouTube Live. I've done all kinds of stuff because now with Wirecast, I mean, I have some friends that do live streaming very professionally. And they have a very expensive studio with thousands of dollars of equipment that, for me, I couldn't see myself making that much of an investment. Mm-hmm. But with one program now, I can do, essentially the same thing that they're doing. Once my computer can handle it, I'm good to go. So I think it's a great way of putting free content out there to connect with your audience and to grow your potential audience and get them into your funnel where they can get even more value from you and do business with you.
What sort of things do you do to attract more audience to a live stream that you're doing? Do you place ads or banner ads, or do you boost your posts?
I have not done any paid advertising for my live streams up to this point. It's something that I'm going to be experimenting with more in the future. But up to this point, I leverage what I already have. I leverage, my Facebook page. I leverage my email list. That's a big thing for me because I think as a blogger, I think my email list is one of my most valuable assets. Mm-hmm. It's how I connect with my audience. And they're giving me permission to contact them via email. All right. So whenever I'm doing a live stream and I want to get more people onto it, I will not just promote it on Facebook. I'm not just on my business page, sometimes to my personal page if I think it's relevant to my friends or more of my friends. But then I'll send out an email. I'll ask people to share it with their friends so that it can get an increased reach because they're sharing it with the people that are connected to them. So it's a combination of just promoting it on Facebook organically, using my email list. Sometimes I will do a blog post about it. Like I remember a few months ago, I did a week of I think 5 days of the week, I did a different presentation. So what I did, in addition to just promoting it on Facebook, is I sent a series of emails to my email list to get more people to engage with my live stream that way, and it worked very well.
Perfect. I'm noticing in the comments here that, for example, Michael here says that this has been very helpful. It's a fresh oxygen, and
Awesome.
it's brilliant. So he's really appreciating what you're sharing. We have some other folks that it looks like they were having some problems streaming to Facebook Live, so we're sorry if that was the case. Looks like Trevor, one of our support guys, has shared a link. So if you guys do have problems with Facebook, we would love to know about that. And certainly update to the latest version 7.2 to see if you still experience those problems. So yeah, meanwhile, keep commenting there if you have other questions for Leslie, and we will take those. We'll check back in on those. So Leslie, one of the things that you mentioned, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you need to go soon, and we would like to also get on to share some of the stuff in 7.2. But one of the things you mentioned was, that you will experiment with Facebook Live. You've done YouTube Live. You've done webinars on them. Have you set sort of a minimum bar in terms of how much live content you want to produce a week? I mean, here for our sake, and to use us as an example, we typically do a weekly show, this show, and we like to make sure we get at least one live piece of content out a week in regards to that. Do you have a similar sort of quota, or are you just kind of as it comes up?
As of right now, it's kind of a as it comes up thing, but I'm making plans for doing a weekly show. I'm working out the detail. I'm actually really excited about that, but I'm working out the details of that right now. And definitely going into the new year, I will be doing a weekly thing. I think it's important. One of the ways we talk about getting more people to engage with your live streams and to show up. One of the ways of doing that is by having a consistent day and time. If people know that every week on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, you're going to be live, they can add that to their calendar. So that is something that I think is important, and I haven't reached there yet, but I am planning to get to that point. And I'm working out. I'm really excited about the details of what I'm planning right now. So I'm excited to get to the point where I am doing a weekly show on Facebook, on YouTube, on multiple platforms.
Well, that sounds like actually a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun once you get on a weekly structure because you kind of know what you expect. It puts a little bit of pressure on you to keep moving forward and keep improving. So that can be fun. So let us know when that show starts going weekly. We would love to post it and help people find it.
Yeah, it's the same thing kind of like as my podcast. I podcast weekly on Wednesdays at 7 a.m. Eastern. And if I miss one of those days, I will get emails from my audience saying, "Hey, what's going on? Where's the podcast?" That's exactly what I want for my live streams.
What do you find? Are you using video for your podcast as well, or is it just audio at this point?
The podcast is just audio. I have done some video in the past, but for my podcast, I think I want to stick with that as just audio. And I want to have something special for just the people that are listening to audio that is 100% catered towards them. And then something for people that are watching on video. Because here's the problem that I find. If I am doing a video and an audio podcast at the same time, I am going to be doing things like, hey, if you see this, I'm demonstrating something because I'm showing you on video. But then the people that are listening on audio, they don't get to see what I'm talking about. So I want to make sure that my podcast stays audio and it's fully for the people that are listening on audio. And everything I do on there has in mind that, hey, these people aren't watching on video. But then when I do the video, I want to be able to show things because that makes that difference from just the audio experience.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me. So, well, I think that we covered a lot of ground, and I really want to appreciate you for being here and sharing your expertise. I'm very excited to see what you continue to do going forward using Wirecast and your live streaming and all of that. Is there any last bit of advice or piece of information you'd share with people, particularly if they themselves are trying to become a blogger or become a sufficient or what's the word, self-supporting worker?
Yeah,
I'm failing to find the words right now.
yeah, that's all right. The first thing that I would tell you is I'll address a mistake that I see way too often. Someone has a business and maybe they have a product to sell, they have a service that they provide and all that good stuff. They're using blogging, they're using a podcast, they're using Facebook and different social networks. And what they're doing on these networks is promoting their products and promoting their services and all that stuff, because they know if people buy their products or sign up for their services, that they will make money. But here's the problem. Nobody cares about your products. Nobody cares about your services. They care about what they are dealing with. They care about their struggles. They care about their goals. So never look at it from a perspective of, man, how can I get out there and promote my stuff? Always look at it from a perspective of, man, how can I get out there and provide as much value as possible to the person that I am trying to reach? Oh, yes, by the way, if you really want to accomplish what you're doing, I have some products and services that can help you. But the focus is not on me promoting those things. The focus is on me providing value. And when your audience sees that, and when new people see that, and they start getting value from you, they're going to be way more likely to sign up for your services. So it's not all about promotion. It is about providing value. I think that is the last tip that I would like to leave with the audience.
I think that's really, really good advice. And one that I think all companies, individuals, businesses, and marketers need to relearn again and again from week to week with each piece of content that they're considering producing, because there is a very much a tendency to put product ahead of, customer, or product ahead of the value or content. And I think that is often, as you say, putting the cart before the horse.
Exactly.
So, well, that's a very good piece of advice. I think we'll leave it there. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate this. Was a wonderful interview. You shared so much value to us and to everyone watching. And we hope that we can have you on again soon.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it, and I'd be happy to come on again.
We'll have you back for sure. Thanks so much,
Sounds
Leslie.
good.
Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time.
All right, same to you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that was Leslie Samuels, a blogging expert, and I just all around great guy. Clearly, he knows what he's talking about. He's walked the walk and has a ton of great advice to share. If you want to find out more about him, just head over to becomeablogger.com, and we walked through all that. You can see everything that he's creating there, and I think it's well worth a stop over there and maybe signing up for his email list just to stay in touch with what he's up to. In the meantime, I'd like to spend a little bit of time here showing you guys what we have in store for you. We just released this week a new version of Wirecast, an update 7.2, and it has a few new features in it. So why don't we head over and we'll check those out. So I'm going to pull up my my screen here. And I'm first just going to start with every time you update to Wirecast, you should get a new login screen. Based on at least telling you what the new stuff that we've added is. So let's look in real quick here and see what you get with this new version. So the first thing you might notice at the top here is streaming branded content to Facebook Live. This is a new feature. It's only available to people with a verified Facebook page, which means you have to have a blue check mark next to your name. That typically is, people like celebrities or businesses or individuals that are more well known that have been verified by Facebook. So you might need to see if your page would qualify or not. But if you do and you are verified, you then get access to this special tag that you can put on your stream, and I'll show you where that is. And basically, it allows you to tag the stream as being provided by or with another verified Facebook page. This is great if you are pulling in a sponsor or a co-branded person or company or individual who's helping you produce the stream or sponsoring the stream in some way. Maybe they're underwriting it. And this is a great way for you to monetize your streams. Very helpful. Someone like Leslie, for example, might take advantage of this feature. And then it's a great way to, continue to monetize streaming and Facebook streaming in particular. Next up, we have support for high DPI monitors for Windows. So this is just expanding our already built-in support for Retina displays on Mac. We now support high-resolution monitors on Windows, 4K displays, anything with high pixel densities and things like that, 1440, HD displays and so forth. So definitely take advantage of that. Wirecast now looks great and runs great on high-res monitors on Windows. Another great feature for you that we've added is auto save recovery. This is very helpful. If Wirecast crashes and you forgot to save, you now should have a backup of that document that the operating system automatically saves, or the Wirecast automatically saves, so that the next time you reopen it, you shouldn't have lost anything mission critical. So obviously saving is very important, but in the event that you forgot and there's a crash of some kind, Wirecast should auto recover your document and the last changes that you made. We also have control improvements to the user interface. We've added progress bars to the media clips and playlists in the main shot list, which is fantastic. You can now see exactly when a media clip or a playlist will finish as it runs through or as the shot is live in your main editor. Before, those were only in the playlist window. We've also allowed you to now lock the aspect ratios of sources in the shot editor, which means that you can now scale things proportionately or unproportionately. So you can lock them or unlock them, and you can scale them accordingly the way you want. You can scale them in the X direction or the Y direction, and so you can stretch or squeeze as needed. And of course, we've also added a stretch to fit for sources that don't match up with the aspect ratio of your canvas. So we can look at that if you'd like. Finally, we've added custom shot duplication options. So basically, you can now choose exactly how you want shots to duplicate, what types of sources you want to be new, brand new copies, and which ones you want to just be identical to the old ones and in fact are the same instance. And so if you change one in one shot, it changes in all your shots. So things like, we'll look at that, but it's a much more in-depth way to know exactly how and what you're going to copy. And we've improved drop shadows and text options. So you can now add great looking drop shadows to your text as well as gradients. So just a few of the changes and updates that we've made. There's also been lots of bug fixes as well. Why don't we take a moment to just dive in and look at what Wirecast 7.2 looks like on the inside and some of these new features. Continue, we'll open a brand new fresh document. There we go. And that will launch Wirecast 7. As you see on the surface, nothing's really changed. But let's say we come in here and let's add a new media file. And I'm just going to bring in this media file. We mentioned that some of the things that you can do here, you should see when you go live, is you'll see these new progress bars. So this file is long, but you can see here that as the clip is playing through, this media file now has a media bar right on it. So I know exactly when that shot is going to be done playing. Now, of course, at the end of it, what happens to it is totally up to you. You know, whether it loops or holds, you can still set all that up here in the Properties tab. That hasn't changed. The other thing, and I'm just going to jump here so you can see things, we also have this very cool lock and scale proportional. So now you have an X scale and Y scale, and if you unlock them, you can stretch or squeeze any of these accordingly. So you still now you can have disproportionate scaling, which can be helpful sometimes. This is also where the stretch to fit button comes in. If, for example, your canvas size is not, I'm going to just turn off the monitor there. If, for example, your canvas size is not going to match the actual aspect ratio of the element itself. So let's say we set our canvas size to something like a 4x3. And you can see that, we have this problem where we can scale to fit, but then you're going to have black bars up at the top. This, however, preserves the X and Y aspect ratio. So, you get either a letter boxing, which is what this would be, or you'd see a pillar boxing if it was maybe as tall but not as wide as the source. Then if you hit the stretch to fit, it's actually going to just stretch it however it needs to in order to fit in the dimension that it doesn't work. So in this case, this footage will look very squeezed. So that's the new stretch to fit button. But the cool thing is if your canvas is matching the original source material, then this button will gray out. So you won't see it unless there's a mismatch between the source and the actual canvas size itself. So that's a very handy little user interface feature that's going to prevent you from making or clicking this button or seeing it or misusing it when it's not needed. It's only needed when there's a mismatch between the source aspect ratio and the canvas aspect ratio. If they're both the same height to width ratios, then this button will be grayed out as it is here. And in which case the scale to fit is your best friend, because that's going to make sure that it just fits right in the right size. And now you can see the progress bar is almost done. It just finished, and now it's looping back to the beginning of the clip. All right, so that is just a few of the user interface changes. We also mentioned that there was some text things going on as well. So why don't we I'll do that again. We'll bring in maybe a little text file here. And for my purpose, I'm just going to use the ocean title. I tend to use that for most of my demos. Go here and select all of them. And just move them around. Hold on. There we go. So I can move that around however I like. I'm just going to kind of hide that right there so it's not going to confuse anybody. So here, if we click on the correct title here, and I think that's the one, we're going to go in here and I'm going to maybe change this to "This is new text." Okay. And you could see here that, and this is one feature I haven't played around with too much, but you should see these new scrolls, this new features at the bottom of the text properties. And if you check the shadow box, you should be able to, set the offset and the color, and you'll see that shadow, that nice shadow is popping in there. And if we were to take this on, say, a varied background, it's going to pop out much better than if it isn't. So there it is without it, and here it is with it. It's obviously going to pop much better. This is great when your background is varied, right? So in this area, this is very light, and white text would show up great. But this area is almost white, and white text does not show up great on the snow there. So when drop shadows really make it so that there's a variation in brightness and contrast, and no matter what the background is, you're pretty much covered. So I highly recommend using drop shadows whenever possible, and in most cases they are appropriate. But of course, stylistically, you'll need to decide that for yourself. But that's the new drop shadow feature. Keep in mind that's where you find that. And there should be a new gradient feature as well. So you'll find that here under the background. We have no background. You can do a solid color background, or you can do a gradient background. So you're actually filling the gradient. And you can choose the two types of colors. So we can actually fill this text box with two colors, and we can even choose the angle of the gradient, which directions it goes, is it radial from the center, and so forth. So there's lots of cool things you can do there to really customize your text boxes. Very cool stuff. So that's some of the new text features that are available for you in the text widget and text properties. And then finally, let's go look at our output and our Facebook. Oh, I did mention there was one other thing here, which was the copy and duplicate. So remember that if you were to duplicate this shot, there was a time when if you duplicated, actually that kept the text was identical from shot to shot. So if we go here and I'm just going to duplicate this shot, make a copy of all the text there. Now let's go into the second one and change. I'm going to take one of these live. I'm going to take the other one here. So that one's live. This one's not. Let's change this text here. Different text, right? So we found that originally in Wirecast 6, this is how it behaved. You could see in the original shot, the copy that's live. These are different texts. The one on the right is new text. The one over here is different text, even though they're copies of each other. That's how Wirecast always behaved. If you made a copy, the copies were actually different text. They were different instances of text. So you could do whatever you wanted to the copy. You could change the content of it, change a title, somebody's name, and then you could come in and not have to worry about that. In Wirecast 7, we introduced we redid the way that we do text in Wirecast, and you were finding that if you duplicated it, it was actually identical. The text was the same. If you changed one, you changed the other. We fixed that in, I think, 7.1, and we made what's called a mirror duplicate versus just a regular duplicate. Now we've come back and actually decided, okay, there's an even better way to do this, and so let's let people choose what they want and which features they want. So that's where this duplicate shot options list comes in. If you right-click on any source, you can go to this control panel, and that's just going to let you decide, like, what are you truly going to duplicate. So basically, if you read this, it says, when checked, if any of these are checked, duplicating a shot containing that source type will create a new instance of that source. Therefore, modifying the original will not affect the duplicated version. So that's why text is the only one that by default is checked. If we were to uncheck this, then of course, if we modify the original, and in this case, we'll just come back, we'll do duplicate this. Now we have this one, and I'm going to take this to the live window, and let's come back and let's modify this one. Same, right? So even though I'm editing the shot over here on the left, the one that's live is changing to, that's what happens when you have that box unchecked, the text options, duplicate options box unchecked. So that just means that any changes to one will make changes to the other. And you can, of course, see that that would be true for anything else as well. So if you want to create a duplicate of the same shot or the same screen capture, the same text, or the same Tyler Live instance, then any changes you make to the original will not affect the new one. And so some of these you might prefer to do it that way. In other cases, you may not. For example, with a scoreboard, you may want it that if it's the same scoreboard, it's the same scoreboard no matter what shot is in. So if you change the score, then it's going to change in all shots with that scoreboard. So just be aware that by default, we only have this true for text, but there may be others as well. Another instance you might want to check, for example, is solid color, right? So instead of changing one for, if we add a solid color here, and by default it's blue, and it's kind of in the center there. And now we duplicate it, and now we want to say, okay, I want this one to be red. Well, since we checked that box, that's no problem. And we now have a blue and a red, even though the thumbnail's not updating there, which is something we will be fixing. But now you should have one that is going to not affect one versus the other. So if I'm going to go back here, duplicate shot options. I'm sorry, they're both unchecked. We want solid color to be checked. There we go. We'll duplicate the shot. And now if we change that back to blue, now we have one red, one blue, and they're perfect copies of each other. Okay, so I hope that makes sense as far as the duplicate shot options. The last thing I wanted to show you was our output settings to Facebook. So and the new sponsored content field. There's really not too much to show you here. This is basically same thing. Nothing's really changed. You're still going to authenticate. Of course, you need to be verified. So I'm just going to log into Facebook. Honestly, I don't even think I can remember my password at this point, so I'm going to just not do that. But you'll see here that you've got this new with field, and this is where you would type another verified page, but you will not be able to use this field unless you yourself are a verified page, which would obviously be part of your authentication process. So it's really pretty simple. You just type in who you are streaming with, or who's sponsoring, or what other verified page is co-branding with your content. And then they should have the ability to see and share your content and see the metrics from it as well, because you are working, it's a co-sponsored broadcast, which is not something you can typically do when you have a solo stream to your own personal page and you're not a verified page. Any questions about that, please type them into the sidebar. I think that covers our 7.2 feature set. I did want to maybe show you this. This was something we talked about. We had a webinar this morning where we went over the ins and outs of church production. We had a great session with Derek Hoym from Rain On Me Productions, and we really went in depth on the types of things that you need when setting up good audio, video, and live streaming production in a house of worship or a church. And one of the things we talked about that a lot of people don't know about, or I'm surprised that when people don't always know about this, but is this solution for Mac users, which is basically lets you take an internal multi-channel card. So here you have a quad channel HDMI. I'm going to take the glare off that a little bit. Quad channel Magewell HDMI. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 inputs, and it can take up to 4 HDMI cameras in at the same time. And then it's generally something you would put inside of a Windows computer, which is no problem if you have extra PC slots. But what if you're a Mac user? You can't open up the computer. You can't install internal cards. Instead, you have to do everything through Thunderbolt. So this Thunderbolt cable is basically going straight to the Mac, and it is acting like a PCIe slot, and it's connecting to all these channels on the card through this box, which we would call an external chassis or Thunderbolt chassis. This one is made by Sonnet, but Lacey makes some. I think there's some others out there. You can pick up a chassis, a Thunderbolt chassis. You can buy a multi-channel card or a single-channel card, whatever you like, an internal capture card. Install it. It takes like 2 minutes, not long. There's just a few screws, and you pop the card in and close it. Plug in the power, and then plug in your Thunderbolt cable to your Mac, and then you can plug up to 4 cameras. And the cool thing about that is that when you have a nice 4-channel card, I'm going to go back to my screen here, in Wirecast, you'll see those cards pop up as input sources under capture devices. So now I'm seeing capture card quad HDMI 1 and 2, 3, and 4. So they're split into audio plus video, but you'll see there's actually 4 inputs here. And I can actually bring in my camera right there into Wirecast, and I could bring up to 4 more in. So very cool solution for getting lots of cameras into a single Thunderbolt port on your Mac. So I highly recommend that. Check it out. That's the Magewell. That's the Magewell card. They now have drivers for Mac available, but you could use a Blackmagic card or any card that's compatible with Mac. And you could, of course, do this on Windows, too. It's just that most Windows computers already have the ability to expand your slots. But if you have, say, like a Windows laptop, if you pick up a Windows laptop with a Thunderbolt port on it, you could do the same thing on Windows. There's no reason why you couldn't, and that allows you to get lots of cameras onto a single Thunderbolt port on your laptop or your Mac. And then a Sonnet chassis or a Lacey chassis or something like that that's going to let you expand. So very cool stuff. I hope that's helpful. I just wanted to mention that because I think that maybe that's not something I've officially brought up before on this show. Well, that's all we have for you today. Next week, feel free to join us again on Thursday. We have a live interview and more tips, more great things to share with you. We will be interviewing Bryce Stedskal, which he's here with us. He's here at the Telestream headquarters. He is the technical product manager for Wirecast and game shows. So he has a lot of great knowledge. He's deeply involved with the development of these programs and the features that you've seen. Some of the ones that I even demoed today come directly from his brilliant brain. So please join us for that next week. I think you'll get a lot of value out of that one as well. And I'm excited to sit down with him and just talk about all things Wirecast and live streaming and what might be coming down the road a little bit. So join us then. We'll see see you next time. As always, you can find us at our Telestream Facebook page, at Telestream Wirecast on Facebook, or if you're watching this on YouTube, our Wirecast Tube page. Hi, please leave a comment, and we'll be happy to respond to you there. I'm Andrew Haley, and this has been another episode of Wirecast Live. We'll see you next time.